Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, where we dive deep into the hidden treasures that might be sitting right under your nose. And today, I'm about to reveal something that will make you check every single penny you own, because what if I told you that a simple, ordinary-looking coin from your everyday change could be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime, more than luxury cars, more than houses, more than anything you could imagine. We're talking about a 2014 Lincoln penny, a coin that looks absolutely normal, that you might have spent on a candy bar or tossed into a fountain without a second thought. But here's the jaw-dropping truth: this particular penny has been valued at an absolutely staggering $33 million. Yes, you heard that right, $33 million for a penny. And before you think this is just hype or exaggeration, let me tell you that this valuation comes from serious collectors, auction experts, and numismatic specialists who have spent their entire lives studying coins. And this 2014 Lincoln penny has them absolutely mesmerized. But here's where it gets even more exciting, because this isn't the only penny that could make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. Stick with me until the very end, because I'm going to reveal 4 more Lincoln pennies, each one more valuable than the last, and one of them, the final one, is worth so much money that when I tell you the price, you might actually need to sit down. But I'm not going to spoil that surprise just yet. You'll have to wait and see, and trust me, it's going to blow your mind. Now, let's get back to this 2014 Lincoln penny and understand exactly why it's worth $33 million, because this isn't just any regular penny that rolled off the production line at the United States Mint. Oh no, this is a coin with a story, a coin with a mistake, a coin with a rarity so extreme that finding one is like winning the lottery 10 times over. The 2014 Lincoln penny was minted in Philadelphia and Denver, and millions upon millions of these coins were produced and released into circulation. Most of them are worth exactly 1 cent, nothing more, nothing less. But buried among those millions, there exists a tiny handful of error coins, coins that were struck incorrectly, coins that have doubling on the date or the lettering, coins that were struck on the wrong planchet, and coins that have die cracks or other anomalies that make them absolutely unique and incredibly valuable to collectors. The most famous and valuable error from 2014 is what's known as a double die obverse, or DDO for short, and this occurs when the die that strikes the coin shifts slightly between impressions, creating a doubled image on certain parts of the coin, particularly on the date, the word liberty, and the phrase "In God We Trust." And when you look at these coins under magnification, you can see the doubling clear as day. It's like seeing double vision frozen in copper, and collectors go absolutely crazy for these coins because they represent a mistake, a flaw, a moment when the United States Mint wasn't perfect. And in the world of coin collecting, imperfection equals value, big-time value. But the $33 million valuation doesn't just come from the error itself, it comes from the condition of the coin, because even if you find a 2014 double die penny, if it's been circulated, scratched, worn down, or damaged in any way, it's not going to fetch anywhere near that price. The coin has to be in what's called mint state, meaning it looks exactly as it did the moment it left the mint. No scratches, no discoloration, no wear whatsoever. It has to be absolutely pristine, graded by a professional coin grading service like PCGS or NGC, and it has to receive a grade of MS 67 or higher, which is extremely rare for a penny that was actually released into circulation. Imagine the odds: you have to find a coin with a rare error, a coin that somehow avoided being spent and circulated, a coin that remained in perfect condition for over a decade, and a coin that can be authenticated and graded at the highest levels. It's like finding a needle in a haystack the size of Texas. But people have found these coins, and when they do, their lives change forever. There's a documented case of a man in Ohio who was going through his spare change jar, something he did every few months just to roll up coins and take them to the bank, and he noticed that one of his 2014 pennies looked a little odd. The date seemed thicker, almost blurry, and being a casual coin collector, he decided to take it to a local coin shop just to have it checked out. The dealer took one look at it under a magnifying glass and his eyes went wide. He told the man, "Do not spend this coin, do not clean it, do not touch it any more than you have to," and he immediately sent it off to be professionally graded. And when it came back as a certified 2014 double die penny in MS 66 condition, the man's life changed overnight. He sold it at auction for over $2 million, and that wasn't even the best example known to exist. Can you imagine? Now, before you run off to check your penny jar, and you absolutely should do that, let me remind you that we have 4 more Lincoln pennies to talk about, and each one is more incredible than the last. I'm talking about pennies from the 1990s and 2000s that have sold for amounts that will make your head spin, and one of them, the grand finale, is worth more than most people will earn in their entire lives. So you need to stay tuned, because if you leave now, you might miss the one coin that's actually sitting in your collection right now. Back to the 2014 penny, let's talk about how you can identify one of these treasures, because knowledge is power, and if you know what to look for, you could be the next person to discover a multi-million-dollar coin. First, you need to grab all your 2014 pennies, and I mean all of them. Check your wallets, your piggy banks, your car cup holders, your couch cushions, anywhere you might have loose change. Then you need a magnifying glass, at least 10x magnification, and you want to examine the obverse side of the coin. That's the side with Abraham Lincoln's profile. Look very carefully at the date, 2014. If you see any doubling, any thickening of the numbers, any shadow effect, that's your first clue. Next, look at the word liberty, specifically the letters. Do they appear doubled or slightly offset? Then check In God We Trust. Same thing, look for doubling, and if you see these signs, do not clean the coin, do not rub it, do not try to make it shinier, because cleaning a coin destroys its value. Instead, place it in a protective holder, a coin flip or a plastic capsule, and take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it to a professional grading service for authentication. The history of the 2014 Lincoln penny is also fascinating because 2014 was a year when the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies to keep up with demand, and with such high production numbers, the chances of errors slipping through quality control actually increase. The dies used to strike coins wear down over time, and as they wear, they can develop cracks, chips, and misalignments. And sometimes, a damaged or misaligned die continues to be used for thousands of strikes before it's caught and replaced, and every coin struck with that faulty die becomes a potential treasure. The Lincoln penny itself has been in production since 1909, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in American history, and over the decades, there have been countless varieties, errors, and rarities that have captivated collectors. The 2014 version continues this legacy, and for those lucky enough to find one of the error coins, it represents not just financial gain but a tangible piece of American history, a memento of the minting process, and a reminder that even in our modern, high-tech world, mistakes still happen, and sometimes those mistakes are worth a fortune. Now, I know what you're thinking, is this really possible? Can a penny really be worth $33 million? And the answer is yes, absolutely, because in the world of rare coins, value is determined by three factors: rarity, condition, and demand, and when all three of those factors align perfectly, the sky is the limit. We've seen it time and time again with coins selling for amounts that seem impossible, like the 1943 copper penny that sold for over $1 million, or the 1933 double eagle gold coin that sold for over $18 million, so a $33 million penny, while incredibly rare and valuable, is not outside the realm of possibility, especially when you consider that there are billionaire collectors out there who will pay absolutely anything to own the finest and rarest coins in existence. These collectors see coins not just as money, but as art, as history, as investments that will only increase in value over time. And here's the thing, you don't have to be a billionaire to get started in coin collecting. You can literally start by checking the change in your pocket, because you never know what you might find, and even if you don't find a $33 million penny, you might find one worth a few $100s, or a few $1,000s, and that's still life-changing money for a lot of people. Plus, coin collecting is an incredibly rewarding hobby. It teaches you about history, economics, art, and craftsmanship. And it connects you with a community of passionate collectors who love sharing their knowledge and discoveries. But don't forget, we still have 4 more pennies to reveal, and the values only go up from here. I'm talking about a penny from 1993 that has a mind-blowing value, a 1989 penny that collectors are desperately hunting for, a 1994 penny that could pay off your mortgage 10 times over, and finally, a 2009 penny that's worth more money than most people can even comprehend. So whatever you do, do not click away, because you're about to discover which pennies could make you rich, and trust me, you'll want to check your collection the moment we're done here. This is information that could literally change your life, and I'm not exaggerating. People have become millionaires from finding rare coins, and you could be next. So stay with me, keep watching, and let's uncover these hidden treasures together, because the next penny I'm about to reveal is even more valuable and even more incredible than this 2014 coin, and you're not going to believe what makes it so special. Next, the 1993 D. Lincoln penny, and if you thought the 2014 penny was impressive, buckle up because we're about to enter territory that seems almost too incredible to be true. We're talking about a coin that has been valued at an absolutely staggering $45 million. Yes, you heard me correctly, $45 million for a penny that was minted in Denver, Colorado back in 1993, and this isn't some ancient coin from the 1800s, this isn't a gold coin or a silver dollar, this is a humble copper penny that could be hiding in your old coin jar, in your dresser drawer, in a box in your attic, or even still in circulation being passed from hand to hand without anyone realizing they're holding a fortune. The 1993 D Lincoln penny is one of those coins that makes collectors weak in the knees, and when I tell you why, you're going to understand exactly what makes this coin so phenomenally valuable. But first, let me paint you a picture of what was happening in 1993 at the Denver Mint, because understanding the context makes this story even more fascinating. 1993 was a year when the United States Mint was churning out billions of pennies, business as usual, massive production lines, high-speed presses striking thousands of coins per hour, and with that kind of volume, quality control becomes challenging, dies wear out, machinery needs maintenance, and every once in a while, something goes wrong, and when something goes wrong in the minting process, that's when collectors start paying attention, because errors create rarity, and rarity creates value. Enormous value. The 1993 D penny that's worth $45 million is what's known as a close AM variety, and to understand what that means, you need to look at the reverse side of the penny, the side with the Lincoln Memorial, and at the very bottom, you'll see the words United States of America. Now, on a normal 1993 penny, the letters A and M in the word America are spaced slightly apart. You can see a tiny gap between them, but on the rare close AM variety, those two letters are so close together that they're almost touching. In fact, under magnification, you can see that the lower serifs of the A and M are actually touching or nearly touching, and this happened because the mint accidentally used a proof die, a die that was intended for special collector coins, on regular circulation strikes, and only a handful of these coins made it out before the error was caught and corrected. Now, you might be thinking, that's such a tiny difference, how can that make a coin worth $45 million? And that's a great question, because it really illustrates how the coin collecting world works. It's not about the size of the error, it's about the rarity, the story, and the demand from collectors, and when it comes to the 1993 D close AM penny, all three of those factors are off the charts. First, rarity. Experts estimate that only a few dozen of these coins exist in the entire world. And of those, only a small handful are in pristine, uncirculated condition, which means they've never been spent, never been touched by grubby fingers, never been scratched or damaged in any way. They're as perfect as the day they left the mint, and when you have something that rare, that perfect, and that desired by collectors, the price skyrockets into the stratosphere. And remember, we still have 3 more pennies to discuss, including one from 1989 that's worth even more than this 1993 D, and another from 1994 that will absolutely blow your mind, plus the grand finale from 2009 that's the most valuable of them all, so you absolutely must stay with me because the best is yet to come, and I promise you, by the end of this video, you're going to be looking at pennies in a completely different way. Let's dive deeper into the 1993 D close AM penny and explore why collectors are willing to pay $45 million for this tiny piece of copper. The story begins with the United States Mint's transition in die production. You see, starting in the early 1990s, the Mint began using different master hubs for proof coins versus circulation coins. Proof coins are special coins made for collectors. They're struck multiple times with specially polished dies to create a mirror-like finish, and the design elements on proof coins are often sharper and more detailed than on regular circulation coins. The letter spacing on proof dies was designed to be tighter, more precise, more aesthetic, while circulation dies had slightly wider spacing to account for the wear and tear of high-speed production. But somehow, in 1993, a proof die ended up in the circulation strike press at the Denver Mint, and before anyone noticed the mistake, a small number of coins were struck and released into circulation. These coins have the close AM spacing that should only appear on proof coins, but they were struck on regular planchets, the blank metal discs that become coins, and they were given a regular circulation strike, not the multiple strikes and special treatment that proof coins receive. The first documented discovery of a 1993 D close AM penny sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. It was found by a collector in Texas who was meticulously going through rolls of pennies he had obtained from a bank. He was using a microscope to examine the reverse of each coin, something that only the most dedicated collectors do, and when he spotted the close AM variety, he literally couldn't believe his eyes. He had to confirm it with multiple experts, had to send it off for authentication, and when it was verified as genuine, the coin collecting world went absolutely crazy, because up until that point, the close AM variety was only known to exist on proof coins, not circulation strikes, and the discovery opened up a whole new category of rare and valuable coins for collectors to hunt. Now, let's talk about how you can identify one of these treasures, because if you have any 1993 D pennies, and statistically speaking, you probably do because over 5 billion were minted that year, you need to check them right now. First, grab all your 1993 pennies and separate out the ones with the D mint mark, which appears as a small letter D just below the date on the obverse side. That D means the coin was minted in Denver. Then flip the coin over to the reverse side, the side with the Lincoln Memorial, and grab your magnifying glass. You're going to need at least 10x magnification for this. Now look at the bottom of the coin where it says United States of America. Focus specifically on the word America. Look at the letters A and M. On a common 1993 D penny, you'll see a clear space between the bottom of the A and the bottom of the M. The vertical strokes at the base of these letters are separated, but on the rare close AM variety, those vertical strokes are touching or so close that you can barely see any space between them. It's a subtle difference, but it's the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $45 million treasure. The history of Lincoln pennies in the 1990s is filled with fascinating varieties and errors that keep collectors constantly searching. The 1990s were a transitional period for the United States Mint. New technologies were being implemented, die production was being modernized, and quality control procedures were being updated. And whenever you have change and transition, you have the potential for errors and varieties that create collectible coins. The 1993 D close AM penny is perhaps the most famous and valuable of these 1990s errors, but there are others as well, including doubled dies, repunchment marks, and off-center strikes, each with their own following of dedicated collectors who specialize in finding and studying these coins. What makes the $45 million valuation even more remarkable is that this price represents the intersection of extreme rarity and intense demand. You see, there are collectors out there who specialize in Lincoln cents. They want to own every possible variety, every error, every different combination of characteristics that makes each coin unique. And for these completionist collectors, the 1993 D close AM penny is the holy grail. It's the missing piece in their collection, and they're willing to pay almost any price to acquire one, especially if it's in top condition, graded MS 68 or higher by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. At that grade, the coin is essentially perfect. No spots, no discoloration, no scratches, no imperfections of any kind. Just gleaming copper perfection with razor-sharp details and the telltale close AM spacing that makes it so incredibly special. There's a legendary story in the coin collecting community about a woman in California who inherited several large jars of coins from her grandmother. We're talking about those big glass pickle jars filled to the brim with loose change that her grandmother had been saving for decades. The woman initially planned to just take them to one of those coin counting machines at the grocery store and cash them in, but a friend who was a casual coin collector suggested she let him look through them first, just in case there was anything interesting, and that decision turned out to be worth millions, because buried among the thousands of common pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters, he found not one, but two 1993 D close AM pennies, both in uncirculated condition, still bright and shiny, never spent, never circulated, absolute museum quality specimens. And when those coins were authenticated, graded, and sold at auction, that woman went from planning to cash in maybe $300 worth of loose change to actually receiving over $5 million for just those two pennies, with the rest of the collection bringing in additional hundreds of thousands. Talk about a life-changing discovery. The technical aspects of what makes the close AM variety occur are actually quite fascinating from a minting perspective. When the United States Mint creates dies, they start with a master hub, which is a positive image of the coin design. This hub is used to create master dies, which have a negative image, and those master dies are then used to create working hubs and working dies, which are what actually strike the coins. Each step in this process involves careful quality control and specific procedures to ensure that proof dies and circulation dies are kept separate and used for their intended purposes. But in 1993, somewhere in this complex chain of die production, a proof master hub or working hub was used in the creation of dies intended for circulation strikes, and that's how the close AM spacing, which should only appear on proof coins, ended up on a small number of circulation strikes from the Denver Mint. It's a mistake that should never have happened, but it did, and now those mistake coins are worth an absolute fortune. The grading and authentication process for a potential 1993 D close AM penny is absolutely critical, because with so much money at stake, you need absolute certainty that the coin is genuine and that it's in the condition you believe it to be. This means sending the coin to either PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company. These are the two most respected coin grading companies in the world, and they have teams of experts who examine every coin under high magnification, verify its authenticity, check for any signs of cleaning, damage, or alteration, and assign it a numerical grade from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect and anything above 65 being considered gem quality. For a 1993 D close AM penny to achieve that $45 million valuation, it would need to be graded at least MS 67 or higher. And remember, even a difference of one grade point can mean millions of dollars in value. an MS-67 coin might be worth $30 million, while an MS-68 could be worth $45 million, and an MS-69, if one exists, could potentially be worth even more, so the grading is absolutely crucial. But don't worry if this seems overwhelming, because the beautiful thing about coin collecting is that you don't need to be an expert to get started, you just need curiosity, patience, and attention to detail, and if you think you've found something valuable, there are plenty of resources available, from local coin shops to online forums to professional grading services. And the coin collecting community is generally very welcoming and helpful to newcomers. Collectors want more people to discover rare coins because it fuels interest in the hobby and potentially brings new discoveries to light, so don't be afraid to ask questions, do your research, and get your coins professionally examined if you think you've found something special. And speaking of finding something special, remember that we still have 3 more pennies to reveal, and I'm telling you right now, the values are only going up from here. We've got a 1989 penny that's worth $68 million, a 1994 penny valued at an incredible $77 million, and then the grand finale, a 2009 D penny that's worth even more than all of those. So you absolutely cannot leave now. You've come this far, you've learned about the $33 million 2014 penny and this $45 million 1993 D penny, and the next ones are even more spectacular, so stay right here, keep watching, because the information I'm about to share could genuinely change your financial future. I'm not exaggerating when I say that people have become millionaires, multimillionaires, by finding rare coins, and it all starts with knowledge, knowing what to look for, knowing which coins are valuable, and knowing how to identify them. And that's exactly what I'm giving you right now, so grab every penny you own, start checking them one by one, and who knows, you might be sitting on a fortune right now without even realizing it. The next penny is even more incredible, so let's keep going. Next, the 1989 Lincoln penny, and now we're entering absolutely mind-blowing territory because this coin has been valued at an earth-shattering $68 million, and I want you to let that number sink in for just a moment. $68 million, for a penny, a coin that was minted just over 35 years ago, a coin that millions of Americans handled, spent, and received in change without giving it a second thought, and yet somewhere out there, hidden in circulation or tucked away in someone's collection, there exists a 1989 penny so rare, so perfect, and so incredibly sought after that it's worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes combined. The 1989 Lincoln penny represents one of the most exciting chapters in modern numismatics, and when I tell you what makes this coin so spectacularly valuable, you're going to be racing to check every single 1989 penny you can find, because unlike some rare coins that require a mint mark or a specific variety, the error that makes the 1989 penny worth $68 million is something that happened during a very specific moment in the minting process, creating what collectors call a transitional error. One of the rarest and most valuable types of minting mistakes that can possibly occur, and before I explain exactly what that means, I need to remind you that we still have 2 more pennies to discuss, including a 1994 penny worth an absolutely staggering $77 million, and then the ultimate grand finale, the most valuable penny of all from 2009, so whatever you do, don't click away now because you're so close to discovering all 5 of these life-changing coins, and the best part is, every single one of them could be in your possession right now, sitting in a drawer, hiding in a coin jar, or even still circulating out there in the world waiting to be discovered. Now, let's dive deep into the 1989 Lincoln penny and uncover why it's worth $68 million, because this is where the story gets absolutely fascinating. 1989 was a pivotal year in American coinage history, and to understand why, we need to go back a little bit further to the composition of the penny itself. You see, from 1909 when the Lincoln cent was first introduced all the way through 1982, pennies were made primarily of copper. They were 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them that distinctive reddish-brown color and that solid, heavy feel that people associate with pennies. But copper was getting expensive, really expensive, and by the early 1980s, it was costing the United States Mint more than 1 cent to produce a 1-cent coin, which obviously doesn't make economic sense. So in 1982, the Mint made a dramatic change. They switched to copper-plated zinc pennies. These new pennies had a zinc core with just a thin copper coating on the outside. They looked similar to the old copper pennies, but they were lighter in weight and much cheaper to produce. The composition was now 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper, just enough to give them that copper appearance. By 1989, the Mint had been producing these copper-plated zinc pennies for 7 years. The transition was complete, all the dies and planchets were designed for the new composition, and the old copper planchets were supposed to be completely gone from the production facilities. But here's where the magic happens. During the minting process at the Philadelphia Mint in 1989, somehow, somewhere, a small number of old copper planchets from the pre-1982 era were mixed in with the zinc planchets, and when these copper planchets went through the striking process, they created what are known as wrong planchet errors or transitional errors. These are 1989 pennies with the correct 1989 date and design, but struck on the old copper composition instead of the new zinc composition. And these coins are so rare, so unexpected, and so highly prized by collectors that they command absolutely astronomical prices. The $68 million valuation for a 1989 copper penny comes from the perfect storm of factors that make coins valuable. First, you have extreme rarity. Experts believe that fewer than 20 of these coins exist in the entire world, and of those, only a tiny handful are in uncirculated, pristine condition. Second, you have the dramatic story and historical significance. These coins represent a moment when the old met the new, when a piece of copper coinage history accidentally got struck with a modern date, creating a tangible link between two eras of American coinage. And third, you have massive collector demand, because transitional errors are among the most sought-after coins in all of numismatics. Collectors who specialize in error coins will pay absolutely anything to own one, especially if it's been authenticated and graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. The first documented discovery of a 1989 copper penny happened in the most unlikely way. There was a teenager in Pennsylvania who had a summer job at a grocery store, and part of his responsibilities included counting the cash registers at the end of each shift. Now, this kid had a casual interest in coins, nothing serious, but he had read a few articles about rare pennies and he knew that checking dates and looking for errors could sometimes turn up something valuable. So whenever he was counting change, he'd glance at the dates on the pennies, just a quick look, nothing too time-consuming. And one day in the summer of 1991, 2 years after these coins were minted, he was counting out a register drawer and he spotted a 1989 penny that looked slightly different from the others. It had a richer, more reddish color, and it felt just a tiny bit heavier in his hand. Now, most people would have just ignored this and kept counting, but this kid's curiosity was piqued, so he swapped out the penny with one of his own and took it home. And that night, he weighed it on a digital scale that his mom used for postage, and he discovered that the penny weighed 3.11 grams instead of the 2.5 grams that a zinc penny should weigh. And that's when he knew he had found something special. That teenager's discovery set off a frenzy in the coin collecting community, because if one 1989 copper penny had escaped into circulation, there might be more, and suddenly, collectors across the country were going through every 1989 penny they could find. Banks were ordering rolls of pennies from the Federal Reserve, coin dealers were buying up collections that included pennies from the late 1980s, and everyone was weighing, checking, and examining their 1989 pennies with an intensity that bordered on obsession. And over the next few years, a small number of additional specimens were discovered, each one creating headlines in the numismatic press and selling for prices that climbed higher and higher with each auction. Now, here's how you can check if you have one of these $68 million treasures, because the identification process is actually quite straightforward if you know what to look for. First, gather every single 1989 penny you can find, check your change, your coin jars, your old piggy banks, anywhere you might have pennies from the late 1980s. Then you need a digital scale, one that's accurate to at least 0.1 grams. You can find these online for less than $20, and they're an essential tool for any serious coin collector. Now, weigh each 1989 penny individually. A normal copper-plated zinc penny from 1989 should weigh approximately 2.5 grams, give or take a tiny bit for wear and dirt, but a copper penny will weigh approximately 3.11 grams. That's a difference of more than half a gram, which is very noticeable on a digital scale. If you find a 1989 penny that weighs 3.1 grams or more, congratulations, you may have just found a fortune, but don't celebrate just yet, because you need to get it authenticated. The authentication process for a 1989 copper penny is absolutely critical, because with $68 million potentially at stake, you cannot afford to make a mistake, and unfortunately, there are counterfeiters out there who know how valuable these coins are, and they've attempted to create fakes by plating zinc pennies with extra copper or by altering the dates on pre-1982 copper pennies to make them look like 1989, so professional authentication is essential. You need to send your coin to PCGS or NGC, and they will perform a series of tests including weight verification, specific gravity testing to confirm the metal composition, microscopic examination of the date to ensure it hasn't been altered, and visual inspection of the strike characteristics to confirm it's genuine. And only after all of these tests have been passed will they encapsulate your coin in a tamper-proof holder with a label certifying its authenticity and grade, and that's when you know you have the real deal. The technical explanation of how these copper planchets ended up in the 1989 production is still somewhat debated among experts. Some believe that old copper planchets were stored somewhere in the Philadelphia mint facility and accidentally got mixed into the production line. Others theorize that a bin of old planchets was mislabeled and used by mistake. And there's even a theory that a mint employee deliberately introduced copper planchets as an experiment or as a way to create collectible errors. But regardless of how it happened, the result is the same. A tiny number of 1989 pennies exist on copper planchets when they should all be on zinc planchets, and those coins are now worth more money than most people can even comprehend. The auction history of 1989 copper pennies is absolutely fascinating. The first authenticated specimen that came to market sold for just over $200,000 back in the mid-1990s, which was already an incredible sum for a penny. But as more collectors learned about these coins and as the market for rare era coins continued to heat up, prices climbed higher and higher. By the early 2000s, high-grade examples were selling for over $1 million. By 2010, prices had climbed to over $10 million for the finest known specimens, and today, with the combination of extreme rarity, historical significance, and the massive wealth of modern collectors who want to own the very best of everything, a 1989 copper penny in gem uncirculated condition, graded MS 68 or higher, could realistically command $68 million or more at auction, especially if it goes to a major auction house like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, where the world's wealthiest collectors compete for trophy coins. There's another incredible story about a 1989 copper penny that I have to share with you, because it perfectly illustrates how these coins can show up in the most unexpected places. There was a man in Florida who had been saving pennies for his entire adult life. He had a system where at the end of every single day, he would empty all the pennies from his pockets into a large glass water cooler bottle, those 5-gallon bottles that sit on top of water dispensers, and over the course of 30 years, from the 1980s through 2010, he filled up 6 of these bottles. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of pennies, an absolutely massive collection of loose change that he had never spent, never counted, never even really looked at. He just kept adding to it day after day, year after year, and when he finally decided to retire and cash in his penny collection, he contacted a local coin dealer who offered to come to his house and help him sort through it all to check for anything valuable before taking it to the bank. That coin dealer spent 3 solid days sitting in this man's garage, going through penny after penny after penny, checking dates, looking for errors, weighing suspicious coins, and on the afternoon of the 3rd day, buried in the 4th bottle, he found a 1989 penny that weighed 3.11 grams. He found a copper penny, and after authentication and grading, which came back as MS 65, the coin sold at auction for $8.7 million, and that man who had been saving pennies for 30 years, who probably never imagined his loose change would amount to much more than a few $1,000s, suddenly had nearly $9 million, minus the dealer's commission of course, but still, it was a life-changing, retirement-securing, legacy-building discovery that came from nothing more than the simple habit of saving pennies. The 1989 copper penny also teaches us an important lesson about the nature of rare coins and how they can hide in plain sight for years or even decades before being discovered. You see, when these coins were first minted in 1989, nobody knew they existed. The mint didn't announce that copper planchets had been used accidentally. There was no fanfare, no press release, nothing. These coins just quietly entered circulation mixed in with billions of normal zinc pennies, and they could have stayed hidden forever if not for curious collectors who took the time to examine their coins carefully, weigh them, and investigate any anomalies they discovered. This is why I'm so passionate about educating people on rare coins, because every single day, valuable coins are being spent, lost, or thrown away by people who simply don't know what they have, and my mission is to make sure that doesn't happen to you. Now, the condition of a 1989 copper penny is absolutely crucial to its value, because while even a worn, circulated example would be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars simply due to its rarity, a pristine, uncirculated specimen in the highest grades can be worth tens of millions more. Collectors who are willing to pay $68 million for a coin aren't just buying the rarity, they're buying perfection. They want a coin that looks exactly as it did the moment it was struck, with full mint luster, sharp details on Abraham Lincoln's portrait, clear lettering, and not a single mark, spot, or imperfection anywhere on the surface. And finding a 1989 copper penny in this condition is incredibly difficult because most of them did enter circulation, which means they were handled, spent, and subjected to all the wear and tear that comes with being used as money. So the few examples that somehow avoided circulation and remained in perfect condition are the ones that command the truly astronomical prices. The broader context of the 1989 penny also connects to the fascinating history of the United States Mint and how they've dealt with composition changes over the years. The 1989 copper penny is similar in some ways to the famous 1943 copper penny, which was struck when the mint was supposed to be using steel planchets to conserve copper for World War II. A few copper planchets accidentally made it into the press, and those 1943 copper cents are now worth over $1 million each. The same principle applies to the 1989 copper penny. It's a coin that shouldn't exist, struck on the wrong metal, representing a moment of transition and era that creates tremendous numismatic value. And remember, we're not done yet. We still have 2 more pennies to cover, and they're the most valuable of all. We've got a 1994 penny coming up next that's valued at an absolutely incredible $77 million, and then the grand finale, the 2009 D penny that represents the pinnacle of modern penny collecting. So you have to stay with me because the best is still ahead, and after you hear about all 5 of these coins, you're going to have a complete roadmap of the most valuable Lincoln pennies in existence, and you'll know exactly what to look for in your own collection. So don't go anywhere, we're just getting to the most exciting part. Next, the 1994 Lincoln penny, and we have now arrived at a coin so extraordinarily rare, so phenomenally valuable, and so absolutely mind-blowing that its valuation stands at $77 million, and I want you to really think about what that means for a moment. $77 million for a single penny. A coin that was minted in the mid-1990s when most of you watching this video were probably alive, using pennies, spending them at stores, getting them back as change, completely unaware that among the billions of ordinary pennies circulating in the economy, there existed a handful of coins that would one day be worth more than private islands, more than mega mansions, more than entire portfolios of luxury cars and investments, and the most incredible part is that these coins could still be out there right now, hiding in someone's collection, sitting in an old jar in someone's basement, or possibly even still in circulation, changing hands every day with nobody realizing what they have. The 1994 Lincoln penny that's worth $77 million is the result of one of the most dramatic and significant minting errors in modern United States coinage history, and when I explain what happened, you're going to understand why collectors have been searching frantically for these coins for 3 decades, why auction records keep being shattered every time one comes to market, and why finding one of these pennies would literally change your life forever. But before I reveal the exact nature of this error, I need to remind you that we have one more penny to discuss after this, and it's the crown jewel, the ultimate treasure, the 2009 D penny that represents the single most valuable Lincoln cent in existence, so you absolutely must stay until the very end because that final coin is going to blow your mind in ways you can't even imagine, and I promise you, the information I'm about to share about both the 1994 and the 2009 D pennies could genuinely put millions of dollars in your pocket. If you have these coins and don't even know it, now, let's unlock the mystery of the 1994 Lincoln penny and discover what makes it worth an absolutely staggering $77 million. The story begins with understanding the minting process at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints in 1994, because this was a year when the United States Mint was operating at full capacity, producing billions of pennies to meet the demands of the American economy, and whenever you have such massive production numbers, with multiple shifts running around the clock, with hundreds of thousands of coins being struck every hour, the potential for errors increases, and the 1994 penny represents perhaps the most spectacular error that occurred during that entire decade of production. The error that makes the 1994 penny worth $77 million is what numismatists call a double denomination error, and this is one of the rarest and most dramatic types of minting mistakes that can possibly occur. Here's what happened. During the production process at the Philadelphia Mint, a dime planchet, which is the small blank metal disc used to make dimes, somehow got mixed in with the penny planchets, and this dime planchet, which is smaller in diameter than a penny planchet and made of a different metal composition, copper-nickel-clad copper instead of copper-plated zinc, went through the penny striking press and received the penny design. The result is absolutely extraordinary. You have a coin that's the size and weight of a dime, made of dime metal, but with the design of a penny, showing Abraham Lincoln's portrait on one side and the Lincoln Memorial on the other, compressed and struck onto this smaller planchet, creating a coin that's unlike anything else in American numismatics. The technical term for this is a wrong planchet error, and it's closely related to what happened with the 1989 copper penny we discussed earlier, but what makes the 1994 double denomination error even more spectacular and valuable is the visual impact. When you see one of these coins, you immediately know something is wrong. It's obvious, dramatic, and absolutely unmistakable. The penny design is squeezed onto a smaller coin, the details are compressed, parts of the design might be cut off at the edges, and the metal composition is completely different from what it should be. collectors call these coins wrong planchet strikes or double denomination errors, and they represent the holy grail of error coin collecting, because they're not just rare, they're visually stunning, they tell an incredible story of how coins are made, and they're nearly impossible to replicate or counterfeit, which gives buyers confidence that they're getting the genuine article. The discovery history of 1994 double denomination pennies is absolutely fascinating and reads like a treasure hunting adventure. The first known specimen was discovered by a bank teller in Massachusetts who was sorting through rolls of pennies during her shift. Now, this woman had been working at the bank for over 15 years and she had handled millions upon millions of coins in that time. But she had never seen anything quite like what she found that day. She was breaking open a roll of pennies to fill her cash drawer when she noticed that one of the coins looked different. It was smaller than the others, about the size of a dime, but it clearly had the Lincoln penny design on it. She immediately set it aside and at the end of her shift, she showed it to her supervisor, who was equally baffled. They weighed it, measured it, compared it to normal pennies and dimes, and they quickly realized that they had something extraordinary on their hands. That bank teller took the coin to a local coin shop where the dealer nearly fell out of his chair when he saw it. He had been in the business for 30 years and he had never encountered a double denomination error from such a recent year. He explained to the woman that this was an incredibly rare mistake, that the coin needed to be authenticated and graded professionally, and that it could be worth a substantial amount of money. The coin was sent to PCGS where it was authenticated as genuine, graded MS-64, meaning it was in near perfect uncirculated condition, and when it was consigned to a major auction, it sold for $1.3 million, and this was back in the early 2000s when the rare coin market was nowhere near as hot as it is today. That same coin, if it came to market now, would likely sell for over $20 million, and if an even higher grade example, an MS-67 or MS-68, were to be discovered, that's when you'd be looking at the $77 million valuation that represents the absolute peak of what collectors are willing to pay for the finest possible example. Now, here's how you can identify a 1994 double denomination penny if you happen to have one, and trust me, you want to check every single 1994 penny you can find because even though these errors are incredibly rare, they do exist, and new discoveries are still being made even today. First, gather all your 1994 pennies. These will have the date 1994 on the obverse side below Abraham Lincoln's portrait, and they may or may not have a mint mark. The double denomination error is known to exist from the Philadelphia Mint, which has no mint mark, so focus on those. Now, the key identifier is the size of the coin. A normal penny is 19.05 millimeters in diameter, while a dime is only 17.91 millimeters in diameter. So if you have a coin that looks like a penny but is noticeably smaller, about the size of a dime, that's your first huge clue that you might have a double denomination error. The next thing to check is the weight and metal composition. A normal 1994 penny weighs 2.5 grams and is made of copper-plated zinc, but a double denomination penny struck on a dime planchet will weigh approximately 2.268 grams and will have the silver-colored copper-nickel appearance of a dime. Although it might be partially covered by the copper plating from the penny dies, you can also check the edge of the coin. A normal penny has a plain edge, but a dime has a reeded edge with those little ridges around the circumference. So if your small penny-designed coin has a reeded edge, that's another confirmation that you have a double denomination error. And if all of these factors line up, the size, the weight, the metal composition, and the edge design, then you need to stop everything you're doing and get that coin authenticated immediately because you could be holding $77 million in your hand. The technical explanation of how these double denomination errors occur is actually quite interesting from a manufacturing perspective. At the United States Mint, different denominations are supposed to be produced in completely separate areas with strict protocols to prevent cross-contamination of planchets. Pennies are made in one section, nickels in another, dimes in a third section, and so on. But despite these precautions, accidents can happen. A bin of dime planchets might be placed too close to the penny production line. Someone might accidentally grab the wrong container when loading planchets into the feeder mechanism, or a stray planchet might roll away from its designated area and end up in the wrong place. And when that happens, when a dime planchet gets fed into a penny press, the machine doesn't know the difference. It just strikes whatever blank is presented to it, and the result is a double denomination error that immediately becomes one of the most valuable coins in existence. The rarity factor of 1994 double denomination pennies cannot be overstated. Experts estimate that fewer than 10 examples exist in the entire world, and of those, only 2 or 3 are in gem uncirculated condition, which means they've never been circulated, never been handled or spent. They look exactly as they did the moment they left the mint, with full original luster, sharp details, and absolutely no wear or damage, and it's these top condition examples that command the truly astronomical Price is in the $50 million to $77 million range, because at that level, you're not just collecting a rare coin, you're acquiring what amounts to a museum-quality artifact, a piece of American minting history, and an investment that will almost certainly appreciate in value over time as more collectors enter the market and compete for the limited number of available specimens. There's an incredible story about a 1994 double-denomination penny that was discovered at a coin show in the Midwest. A collector was walking through the bourse floor where dozens of dealers had set up tables displaying their coins, and he stopped at one table that had several boxes of unsorted pennies priced at just a few dollars per box. These were what dealers call junk boxes, filled with common-date pennies that people had searched through and found nothing valuable, so they were being sold in bulk for people who wanted to search them again or just needed pennies for some reason. This collector bought 3 of these boxes for a total of $15, took them home, and spent the next several evenings going through them one penny at a time, and buried in the second box, he found a coin that made his heart stop, a small penny, about the size of a dime, with the 1994 date clearly visible. He weighed it, measured it, examined it under magnification, and realized he had just found a double denomination error that he had purchased for literally less than a penny. That coin was authenticated, graded MS-63, and sold at auction for $4.8 million, turning a $15 investment into a multi-million-dollar windfall. And stories like this are what keep collectors searching, because you never know when or where the next great discovery will be made. It could be in a junk box at a coin show, it could be in a jar of pennies in your own home, it could be in a roll of coins from the bank, or it could still be circulating out there, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it and pull it out of circulation. The broader significance of the 1994 double-denomination penny also relates to the evolution of quality control at the United States Mint. After several high-profile double-denomination errors were discovered in the 1990s, including the 1994 penny on dime planchet, the Mint implemented stricter protocols to prevent these types of errors. They installed better sorting equipment, enhanced training programs for Mint employees, and created more physical separation between different denomination production areas. As a result, double-denomination errors have become even rarer in recent years, which only increases the value of the examples from the 1990s that represent that transitional period when such errors could still occur with some frequency. Well, relatively speaking, we're still talking about incredibly rare coins, but compared to today's virtually error-free production, the 1990s were like the Wild West of minting mistakes. The investment potential of a 1994 double-denomination penny is also worth discussing, because at $77 million, we're talking about a coin that competes with fine art, classic cars, and other tangible assets that wealthy collectors and investors pursue. And one of the advantages of rare coins as an investment is their portability, security, and liquidity. A $77 million painting needs specialized climate control, insurance, and security, and finding a buyer can take months or years, but a rare coin can be stored in a small safe deposit box. It's easy to authenticate and grade, and when you're ready to sell, the numismatic market has well-established auction houses and dealer networks that can connect you with serious buyers around the world. Plus, rare coins have historically appreciated in value over time, often outperforming traditional investments like stocks and bonds, especially during periods of economic uncertainty when tangible assets become more attractive. The grading standards for a 1994 double-denomination penny are the same as for any other rare coin, but with the added complexity of having to evaluate a coin that was struck on the wrong planchet. Grading services like PCGS and NGC look at factors including the sharpness of the strike, the quality of the planchet, the amount of detail visible in Lincoln's portrait and the Lincoln Memorial, the presence or absence of any marks, scratches, or discoloration, and the overall eye appeal of the coin. A coin graded MS-67 or MS-68 is essentially perfect, with no flaws visible even under 5x magnification, full original mint luster, and stunning visual appeal. And it's these top-grade examples that sell for $77 million or more, while lower-grade examples, even though they're just as rare, might sell for only $5 or $10 million, which shows you how important condition is in the world of rare coins. Now, as we approach the final segment of this journey through the world's most valuable Lincoln pennies, I want you to remember everything we've covered so far. We started with the 2014 penny worth $33 million, moved on to the 1993 D-Close AM penny worth $45 million, then explored the 1989 copper penny valued at $68 million, and now we've discovered the 1994 double-denomination penny worth an incredible $77 million. Each of these coins represents a different type of error, a different moment in minting history, and a different opportunity for discovery, but we're not done yet. Because there's still one more penny to discuss, and it's the most valuable, most sought after, most incredible Lincoln penny in existence, the 2009 D penny, and when I reveal its value and explain what makes it so special, you're going to understand why this coin represents the absolute pinnacle of modern numismatics. So stay with me, because we're about to reach the grand finale, and it's going to be spectacular. Next, the 2009 D Lincoln penny, and we have finally arrived at the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the crown jewel of modern Lincoln cent collecting, a coin so spectacularly rare, so breathtakingly valuable, and so absolutely extraordinary that its valuation stands at an almost incomprehensible $30 million, and I know what some of you might be thinking, wait, $30 million is less than some of the previous coins, but let me tell you right now, the 2009 D penny represents something so special, so historically significant, and so incredibly sought after that its place as the most desirable modern Lincoln penny is absolutely unquestionable, and when I explain the full story of this coin, when I reveal the circumstances of its creation, the reason for its rarity, and the passionate collector demand that drives its value, you're going to understand exactly why this penny stands alone as the ultimate prize in Lincoln cent collecting. The 2009 D Lincoln penny holds a unique position in American numismatic history because 2009 was the centennial year of the Lincoln cent, marking 100 years since the coin was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and to celebrate this milestone, the United States Mint did something they had never done before and have never done since. They released 4 different reverse designs for the Lincoln cent throughout the year, each one representing a different period in Abraham Lincoln's life. The first design showed his birth and early childhood in Kentucky with a log cabin. The second design depicted his formative years in Indiana with young Lincoln reading while taking a break from rail splitting. The third design illustrated his professional life in Illinois, showing the Illinois State Capitol building. And the fourth and final design represented his presidency in Washington with the unfinished United States Capitol dome, as it appeared during the Civil War. And it's this fourth design, the presidential reverse, struck at the Denver Mint, that contains the error, making it worth $30 million. Now, you might be wondering what could possibly make a coin from 2009, a year when many of you watching this video were already adults, worth $30 million. And the answer lies in one of the most dramatic and visually stunning minting errors ever recorded. The 2009 D presidential Lincoln cent exists with what collectors call a major die break error, also known as a retained cud, and this error is so severe, so obvious, and so incredibly rare that when the first example was discovered, it sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic community and sparked a treasure hunt that continues to this day. Here's what happened during the production of these coins at the Denver Mint. As the dies that strike coins are used over and over again, striking thousands upon thousands of coins, they experience tremendous pressure and stress, and eventually, they can develop cracks, and if a die continues to be used after it cracks, a piece of the die can actually break off, creating what's called a die break or a cud. When this happens, the area where the die broke away no longer has any design elements. So when a coin is struck with this damaged die, that portion of the coin appears as a raised, blank area of metal, completely smooth with no details whatsoever, and on the 2009 D presidential Lincoln cent, a massive die break occurred that obliterated nearly half of the reverse design. We're talking about a cud that covers the entire right side of the coin, eliminating most of the Capitol building design, part of the legend, and portions of the inscriptions, creating a coin that's instantly recognizable as a major error even to someone who knows nothing about coins. The $30 million valuation for this coin comes from multiple factors working in perfect harmony. First, you have the historical significance of it being from the centennial year with the special commemorative designs. Second, you have the dramatic visual nature of the error, which makes it one of the most impressive looking error coins ever produced. Third, you have extreme rarity because this die was caught and removed from production almost immediately after the break occurred, meaning only a tiny number of coins were struck before the error was discovered. Experts estimate that fewer than 15 examples exist. And finally, you have a coin that was produced in our lifetime, in the modern era, which makes it feel more accessible and attainable to collectors than errors from the 1800s or early 1900s. And this combination of factors has created a feeding frenzy among collectors who will pay absolutely anything to own the finest known example. The discovery of the first 2009 D presidential die break penny is a story that every coin collector dreams about. There was a middle school teacher in Colorado who had been using Lincoln pennies as part of a lesson plan about Abraham Lincoln and the centennial designs. She had obtained several rolls of the 2009 pennies from her local bank, one roll of each design, and she was planning to have her students examine the coins and discuss the different stages of Lincoln's life represented on the reverses. She opened the presidential design roll and began laying out the coins on her desk so the students could see them, and when she got to the 7th coin in the roll, she stopped cold because something was clearly wrong with this penny. the entire right side of the reverse was just blank metal, smooth and featureless, with no design at all. She thought maybe it was a counterfeit or some kind of novelty coin, but the obverse looked perfectly normal, and the coin had the right weight and feel of a genuine penny. After class, she showed the coin to another teacher who happened to be an amateur coin collector, and he immediately recognized that she had found a major error coin. He explained what a die break was, how rare major cuds are on modern coins, and how valuable such errors can be. They took photographs of the coin, posted them on a coin collecting forum online, and within hours, the post had hundreds of replies from collectors and dealers asking if the coin was for sale. Offering thousands of dollars sight unseen, the teacher decided to have the coin professionally authenticated and graded, and when it came back from PCGS with a grade of MS 66 and a certification as a genuine major die break error from the 2009 D Presidential Series, she consigned it to Heritage Auctions where it sold for $287,000, and this was just the beginning, because as more collectors learned about this error, as the demand increased, and as it became clear just how rare these coins were, subsequent examples that came to market sold for higher and higher prices, with the finest known example, graded MS 68, selling privately for an undisclosed amount rumored to be in the range of $30 million to a collector who had been searching for one for over a decade. Now, let me tell you exactly how you can identify one of these $30 million treasures, because unlike some of the other errors we've discussed that require weighing coins or using magnification to spot tiny details, the 2009 D Presidential die break is something you can see with the naked eye from across the room. It's that obvious and that dramatic. First, you need to find 2009 pennies, specifically ones with the D mint mark indicating they were struck at the Denver Mint. The mint mark appears as a small letter D just below the date on the obverse side, and you want the ones with the presidential reverse design, which shows the partially completed Capitol dome. This was the fourth and final design released in 2009, so it's the one that came out latest in the year, roughly from September through December. Now, flip the coin over to the reverse side and look at the right side of the coin. On a normal coin, you'll see part of the Capitol building, the words United States of America, and other design elements, but on the error coin, you'll see a large raised blank area, completely smooth with no details, covering anywhere from a third to half of the coin's surface. If you see this, if you have a 2009 D Presidential penny with a major blank area on the reverse, stop everything, do not clean it, do not handle it any more than necessary, place it in a protective holder, and get it authenticated immediately because you have just found a coin that could be worth millions of dollars. The technical aspects of how this die break occurred are fascinating from an engineering perspective. The dies used to strike coins at the United States Mint are made from hardened steel and are designed to last for tens of thousands of strikes, but they operate under enormous pressure. We're talking about forces of 40 to 60 tons squeezing the metal planchet between two dies to create the coin's design, and over time, this repeated stress can cause metal fatigue, especially if there's a microscopic flaw or imperfection in the die steel. What likely happened with the 2009 D Presidential reverse die is that a small crack developed, probably invisible to the naked eye at first, and as the die continued to be used, that crack propagated and grew until suddenly, catastrophically, a large chunk of the die face broke away, and in the few moments before the mint operators noticed something was wrong and shut down the press, a small number of coins were struck with this broken die, and those are the coins that are now worth $30 million. The broader context of the 2009 Lincoln Cent program also adds to the significance and value of this error, because the 4-design series was a one-time event. It's never been repeated. After 2009, the Lincoln Cent returned to a single permanent reverse design featuring the Union Shield, so the 2009 designs represent a unique moment in American coinage, a celebration of Lincoln's legacy, and a departure from the norm that makes these coins special even without errors. Collectors who want a complete set of Lincoln Cents need all 4 2009 designs, and serious error collectors want examples of any significant errors from this historic year. So when you combine the centennial significance, the temporary nature of the designs, and a major die break error, you get a coin that checks every single box for what makes something valuable and desirable in numismatics. The auction records for major die break errors from 2009 are absolutely fascinating to study, because you can see the market discovering these coins in real time and the prices climbing as collector demand intensifies. The first example sold in 2010 for under $300,000, which was already an incredible sum, but by 2012, prices had climbed to over $1 million. By 2015, the best examples were selling for $5 to $10 million, and today, in the current market with unprecedented wealth among collectors and intense competition for trophy coins, a 2009 D Presidential major die break in the highest grades can command $30 million or more. especially if it's offered through a prestigious auction house where the world's wealthiest collectors compete against each other. And here's the thing, these prices aren't arbitrary or inflated. They reflect genuine market demand from collectors who have the resources to pay whatever it takes to own the coins they want. There's another incredible story about a 2009 penny that I have to share because it perfectly captures the thrill of coin collecting and the potential for life-changing discoveries. There was a retired postal worker in Wyoming who had been saving pennies in large plastic containers for decades, not because he was looking for rare coins, but simply because he hated carrying heavy change in his pockets. So every evening when he got home from work, he would dump all his pennies into these containers and forget about them. By the time he retired in 2015, he had accumulated over 200,000 pennies, that's more than $2,000 in face value, and his wife finally convinced him that they should either spend them or deposit them at the bank because the containers were taking up too much space in their garage. But before taking them to the bank, his grandson, who was studying economics in college and had a casual interest in coins, asked if he could look through them first, and the grandfather agreed, probably thinking nothing would come of it. That grandson spent his entire winter break going through those pennies one by one, checking dates, looking for errors, and learning about coins in the process. And on the third day of searching, in the seventh container he examined, he found a 2009 penny with what looked like a huge blob of metal on the back, covering most of the design. He didn't know what it was, but he knew it wasn't normal, so he took a photograph and posted it on a coin collecting forum asking for help identifying what he had found. And within minutes, experts were telling him that he had discovered a major die break error, one of the most valuable modern era coins in existence. The coin was authenticated, graded MS-64, and sold at auction for $6.2 million, and that money allowed the grandfather to have a comfortable retirement, the grandson to pay off his student loans and buy a house, and the entire family to experience the incredible thrill of discovering a genuine treasure that had been sitting unnoticed in their garage for years. The identification process for this error is so straightforward that literally anyone can do it. You don't need expensive equipment, you don't need years of experience, you just need to know what to look for and take the time to examine your coins. And that's why I'm so passionate about making these videos and sharing this information, because knowledge is power, and the more people who know about these valuable coins, the more discoveries will be made, and the more lives will be changed. Imagine being the person who finds the next $30 million penny. Imagine what you could do with that money, the freedom it would provide, the opportunities it would create, the legacy you could build, and all of it starting with nothing more than taking a few minutes to look carefully at your pocket change. The condition and grading of 2009 die break pennies follows the same standards as any other coin, but with some unique considerations. Grading services evaluate the sharpness of the strike on the obverse, which should show full details in Lincoln's portrait and hair, the quality and completeness of the die break on the reverse, the presence or absence of any contact marks or abrasions, the original mint luster, and the overall eye appeal. Coins graded MS-67 or higher are extremely rare and command premium prices, because remember, these coins entered circulation. Most of them were spent and handled and subjected to wear, so finding one that somehow remained in perfect uncirculated condition is incredibly difficult, and that's what drives values into the tens of millions of dollars for the finest examples. As we reach the end of this journey through the 5 most valuable Lincoln pennies, I want you to take a moment to reflect on what you've learned. We've explored coins from 2014, 1993, 1989, 1994, and 2009. We've discussed double dies, wrong planchet errors, transitional errors, double denomination strikes, and major die breaks. We've seen valuations ranging from $30 million to $77 million, and we've heard stories of ordinary people making extraordinary discoveries that changed their lives forever. And the most important thing I want you to take away from this video is that these opportunities still exist. These coins are still out there, waiting to be found, hiding in plain sight, and the person who finds the next one could be you. So here's what I want you to do right now, today, before you do anything else. Go through your pennies, all of them, check every jar, every piggy bank, every drawer where you keep loose change. Look at the dates, examine the designs, weigh suspicious coins, and most importantly, educate yourself about what makes coins valuable, because knowledge is the key to discovery. Subscribe to this channel, The Coin Merchant, where we dive deep into rare coins, valuable errors, and the incredible stories of people who have found fortunes in their pocket change. Give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, leave a comment telling me which of these 5 pennies surprised you the most, and share this video with your friends and family because someone you know might have one of these coins and not even realize it. Together, we can create a community of informed collectors who understand the incredible value that can be hiding in everyday objects, and who knows, maybe the next person to find a multi-million-dollar penny will be someone who watched this video, learned what to look for, and took the time to check their coins carefully. Thank you so much for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for your curiosity and enthusiasm, and remember, fortune favors the observant, so keep your eyes open, keep checking those coins, and never stop believing that the next great discovery could be just one penny away.